make your home irresistible to buyers. If you're thinking of selling your home or you are selling your home, there are certain things you can do that will make it absolutely irresistible. And we're going to talk about 13 of them because 13 is my favorite lucky number.
Okay. And I'm Candace St. Louis Decker.
And I'm Yetta Decker, not St. Louis. And we love talking about things that can make a difference to anyone that is out there to do with their home of any kind, really. Anything to do with housing or just the care of your property. And yet this time we thought, how do we make it irresistible or tell you about those things that make it irresistible to buyers? And in fact, by doing that often, they're the things that in some ways will make it irresistible to you if you're living in the home too.
Yeah. And sometimes we give advice to our sellers, and after they do all the advice, they're like, oh, this is lovely. Maybe I don't want to sell after all. I just like it this way. We should have done this 10 years ago.
Exactly. That happens a lot. So the first thing that we want to do that's number one and the most vital is, as your realtor, we want to do a thorough walkthrough of your home and look for any of those things that are going to become issues later or probably become issues later. So that's the first step in making your home irresistible, is not having things that will surprise the buyer and or even surprise you.
Yeah. And maybe it's a repair that, you fixed. There was an issue. For example, I just went through someone's house and they had foundation crack, which happened 15 years ago, and they did all the proper remedies to it. Hired a company, got a warranty on it, and yet they left the ripped up drywall to get to the crack, and they left the water residue damage on the baseboard that showed something had happened, and yet it was 15 years ago,
and it had no water penetration again.
No, and it had been fixed, just not repaired, so it wouldn't draw attention to it.
Right. And so clean up those little spaces. And another thing that happened from one of my clients just the other day is she actually, even though we're previous clients of ours, there's that adage out there that sometimes you should interview three. And because it was an estate sale, she really felt that she owed it to other people. So she had to do her due diligence, which was totally fine. So she had 3 in to talk to her about the property, and everybody spent some time with her in the property. And then I came in at the very end. And we started looking in the basement. We looked in the attic. I wanted to see, it was an older home, a century home. And what no one had noticed, and it actually has made all the difference, is there was a hole in some of the cast iron plumbing. In the basement. And so we needed to remedy that. We got that handled. We got that done, dealt with very quickly. And so now it's not an issue, right? There's not something that's going to sabotage the sale later. And so making it irresistible partially is making sure there's no issues later. And then another thing we found in another property was in fact vermiculite insulation in the attic. And there was a time where that wasn't a big deal. It's naturally mined. It's a great insulator. And yet now it's become a bit of an insurance nightmare. And there is sometimes asbestos in the vermiculite. And even if you have it tested, the challenge is if it shows 0,0, because vermiculite's a naturally mined material, some of the bags that are in your attic may have none. And your testing coat shows up great. And yet, if somebody tested it 6 months later and grabbed samples from different spots, now we might get a reading of asbestos. And so we were able to make sure that that doesn't come up later. So we simply had it removed, had new insulation put in, and now there's no issue. And
where a buyer coming in would maybe get scared off, number one. 2, ask for a significant price change on the property for something that may or may not be there.
Right. And the remedy was very inexpensive relative to what it would have cost if we'd done it after the fact and gotten a big production out of it and stuff. And I know one of our buyers, in fact, because we can't do as thorough inspection until we do the building inspection in the case of a buyer. And there was, in fact, vermiculite, and it did test very low. And the seller wasn't willing to spend the money on remedy. And so if their realtor had simply upfront in advance dealt with it, it could have been dealt with quite not too extreme, more cost effective is the right word here, and without creating doubt in the mind of the buyer.
Mm-hmm.
So certainly a thorough inspection, and we're not building inspectors. We don't pretend to be building inspectors, and yet often we can see things that others can't see.
Right.
And that maybe you as a homeowner don't even see. The other option is you can certainly have a building inspector come and do an inspection in advance of putting the home on the market. And there is some trending of that in the Ottawa market. It can be very effective and can be helpful because then you have an idea of what to look for and remedy those things. Right. It can sometimes create a little bit of angst.
Yes.
Because the way your inspector views it and the way a new inspector views it are not necessarily the same.
Right, because when the inspector comes for the seller, they see different things from the seller's point of view, and when an inspector comes for a buyer, they see the view of the buyer. So you can have two inspectors say different things about the exact same house, and so it can be frustrating.
It can. Yeah. And so anyway, so that's one of the best things we can do for you is have a good, thorough look through so that there are no unwarranted, nasty surprises. Number 2 that makes your home irresistible to buyers is pricing it right.
Yes. Yes. Huge right now, especially in a buyer's market.
Mm-hmm. Right? Because if we get it out, even by, depending on the price point, even $10,000 or $15,000 or $20,000 sounds like nothing, except what happens is the wrong buyers come through your house.
That's right.
The buyers that were willing to pay X for your home haven't even seen it. Mm-hmm. So making it irresistible is also making it not under market. I don't believe in underpricing property. I believe in getting every dime the market will bear, don't we?
Yes, absolutely.
I like doing that. We all like doing that, actually. Yeah. We love helping our sellers get what is available in our current market to get, and yet if we don't price it bang on, better to price it bang on than above the market and lose your market.
Yes.
It's no longer irresistible.
That's right.
It gets stale, and by the time it is priced, it doesn't work.
As effective,
Yeah, absolutely. And number 3, details. The little finite things make the difference.
Absolutely. A buyer coming in seeing many, many homes, their standard is pretty much above what they're living in.
Always.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So they're looking for that model home to take their breath away. They're looking for the smudge on the wall not to be there. They're looking for, sometimes we walk through our homes and we don't really see the day-to-day things that would stand out when we're coming for a one viewing and kind of nitpicking it, right? As a buyer, they will do that.
Right.
And so it's great to do those things before the buyer comes.
Right. So make your home irresistible at getting rid of the cobwebs, the ones that are around the windowsills, the ones that are around the lamp on the outside of your house, the smudges on the walls, the spots on the carpet. The fresh coat of paint is probably the least expensive single thing you can do that totally freshens a house.
Absolutely.
Carpet
and
cleaning
modern
and paint.
Colors.
Yeah, contemporary colors. We don't want it too sterile. So the little tiny details, actually, even putting a bouquet of nice flowers on the kitchen table.
Yeah.
Make a difference.
It does, yeah.
They don't get to keep the flowers.
No.
And yet they actually change how you've made the home irresistible.
Right.
To the buyer as they come in. Number 4 is you want to make sure that the home is the best version of itself. Mm-hmm. Focus on curb appeal. Start from the outside and work your way in.
Yeah. So when a buyer comes up to a house, within the first 30 seconds or so, they start justifying yeses or nos. Will that house suit them? And they don't even know that they're doing it. It's in their subconscious. And if you think about it, the first 30 seconds into a house is actually the exterior of the house. When you pull into the driveway, what you see as you walk up the steps and those sorts of things.
makes a huge difference.
Huge difference.
And so focus on the outside, the edge of your driveway. You know,
Yes.
like if you've got, whether it's a gravel driveway or if it's a paved driveway or an interlock driveway, get rid of those weeds. Get rid of anything that makes it look untidy. Trim the bushes, trim the trees. Trees should be trees shouldn't be bushes.
Right.
And sometimes they've got so much overgrowth, all those extra branches that come, and now we've let our trees become bushes. And it doesn't have the same curb appeal. Maybe it's a fresh coat of paint on your front door.
Yeah.
That's huge in changing that irresistible attraction of the home to the buyer. No fingerprints on the front glass.
Yeah. And no hockey puck ball marks on the garage door, that sort of thing, or a hockey net right beside or in front of. It takes away from the house. So just tidying those things up like a model home.
Yeah, it makes so much difference. And so we want to make sure that the curb appeal is fresh and inviting, and it draws people to want to go into the house.
Yeah.
Number 5.
Updating lighting and giving it a refresh. So bright bulbs even help a home. I know the efficient ones that save energy are very popular right now. Sometimes they have a delay when they come on, and that's not very inviting to a buyer. So bright bulbs really help show a house.
And the right amount of lighting in a particular room. So if it's a room that's supposed to be a cozy room, it can be less lighting.
Right.
If it's a room that's meant to be an office, there should be some task lighting in there. So the appropriate type of lighting for the appropriate room will actually just make it more inviting to the buyer. Sometimes it's changing out a chandelier. Even though we love it, what's there, because it's personal to us and we've lived with it for 25 years, lighting is a pretty inexpensive refresher in a home. So especially in a high profile area, the first ones you see, by the time you get to the secondary bedrooms, you actually have to put much less effort in.
Right.
Because the decision's already been made.
Yeah. And I was walking through a house yesterday, actually, and telling a seller the tips to do to his house. And he was in awe, and he's like, these are things I don't see. And I said, absolutely, I don't expect you to see them, although a buyer sees them. So if you'd like to get the most amount of value out of your home, the bright gold light fixture with bulbs sticking out of it in your ensuite might be wise to change that out to match the other lighting in your house. So the pewter, you've switched some of them out, and I know that it doesn't really affect your day-to-day. However, it will affect a buyer when they're coming to fall in love with your ensuite.
And especially in the ensuite. So our master bedroom places and our kitchens and our main living spaces are probably your most 3 important areas to have the most inviting.
Yeah, and it's probably only going to be a $60 light fixture, and yet it's going to change the feel throughout the house. Right?
Yeah, even though it's in one little room.
Yeah, and so I also actually suggested silver knobs on the white cabinet instead of gold knobs. So we are just tying it in, and for those types of knobs, it's only $20 for 10 little knobs, So it changes the entire feel of the room to current rather than 1990s or early 2000s to current.
Yeah, so that's a little more than lighting. However, the lighting will also bounce off and accentuate some of those things that we maybe haven't touched up.
Right.
So let's pull those together. And if you're just joining us on the Inside Track on Real Estate, we've been talking about 13 things, we're not all the way through the list yet, that will make your home irresistible to buyers. And some of them may sound very particular and like, I don't live that way, so why should I do that for a buyer? Reality is we want to sell your home for as much money as possible. And so these things increase, in fact, the value of your home, because the vast majority of buyers, most of us, do not have a significant imagination.
Right.
And we're used to HTV.
Yes, we are.
And, HGTV. Anyway, Homes and Garden TV. And we're also used to model homes. It's become very trendy. And so unfortunately for all of us, if we want to make our homes irresistible, it does mean stepping it up.
It does. Yeah.
Decluttering.
Yes, that's a huge one. And it does scare some people.
Actually, I found it scary. Heck, when I was selling my home a couple of times ago, I actually did everything. I did the decluttering. I got it ready. I cleaned everything. And then I had a home stager, which was in training with our company, come in as a learning practice for all of our agents. And so I knew she was going to find nothing because I had it handled, and I do this every day.
Yeah.
And reality is she found things because it was my home. I could have done it in your home with no issues, and yet you stay attached to some of those things in your house and you don't even see them as an abundance. And what we want to create is a clean slate.
Right. So for when a buyer comes into your home, they can see themselves there, not necessarily guess who is living here and what kind of taste they have. And, oh, that's a little eclectic. That doesn't match the rest of the stuff. Maybe they want it on a trip to Africa, those sorts of things that are going to go through their mind. We don't want them. We want them to picture themselves there.
And it doesn't have to be absolutely bland.
No.
The idea is to create a little bit of visual interest, not so much, though, that people can't envision themselves.
Right.
So, we have books and books and books and books. So when we go to sell, 3/4 of the books have to get packed up because it's a lot of books and it's messy looking and it's just clutter.
Yeah.
Unless it's your books and you've been reading them and you read them all, right?
That's right. And I found in previous times when I sell my house, when I do the decluttering and I take 3/4 of the kids' toys out of the toy closet and those sorts of things, that when I do sell my house and I do go to move, it is so much quicker than actually when I was decluttering. There's so much less to pack up, and it only took us a week. We were afraid of a 2-week closing date. It was very, very quick for one of our moves, and we had an extra week left, and we had packed everything up, so we moved out a week early. And so it really does help the move, actually, even when you do the decluttering before it goes on the market.
And number 7, this is an interesting one. It's simply rearranging furniture, repositioning things, just be creative in the approach. And so our home preparation gal helps you do that. You don't have to come up with all these ideas on your own. No. They are things that make your home irresistible, though. We don't want a lot of furniture in front of windows would be one tip, because then we can't get to the outside, and we like the feel of the outside because it actually makes the inside feel bigger.
Right. And buyers will come into a room and naturally they get drawn to the window to go look out the view. So there needs to be access there for them to do that.
Yeah. So open up spaces. Sometimes we have couches that function well for our day-to-day, placed in certain spots, and yet they're really not inviting people into the home and into the room, and they make the rooms look smaller. So just be very creative in the arrangement of furniture. And Debbie is phenomenal at helping that happen. And number 8.
It's pay attention to your outdoors, your kitchen, garbage,
all those odors, right?
Yeah.
You want to make your inside fresh smelling like the outdoors, right? We want to be able to have natural smell. So if we want to make sure the garbages have been emptied. And if we're going to bring in lilacs or something, that's a wonderful way of bringing the outdoors in and eliminating those stale indoor odors. Another great option is essential oils or vanilla.
Vanilla, yep.
Stay away from the commercial artificial scents.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they feel like
you're hiding something, where the other ones are natural and warm and inviting. I used to put cinnamon sticks in a little bit of water on the stove and boil those before as I was cleaning up the last minute things, and then just tuck it away in the oven. And it leaves a warm, fresh baked, homey feel.
Yeah, it's wonderful, right?
Yeah.
And number 9, modernize the master bedroom.
Yeah.
Make the master bed, just buy a new throw,
yep.
a new comforter. Some pluffed up pillows, although they're a pain to take off every day, and make your bed again. From inviting people in, you want to create that master bedroom as an oasis, whether it's a small room or a large room, whether it's a luxury home or not. It really still is that place that people go for their solace at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that is a way of making your home irresistible, is get that master bedroom feeling irresistible.
Yeah, and I've watched fresh bedding or up-to-date comforter versus an older comforter that's out of date or something from college just thrown on the bed, and it makes it feel tired, even though the bedroom had been freshly painted, that sort of thing. It's just the overall feeling a buyer will get. So let's make that as best as we can.
Absolutely. Right? And a couple of large pieces of artwork, a mirror maybe to open up some spaces, can be incredibly effective in making your master bedroom irresistible.
Yeah.
And then irresistible landscaping. And landscaping does not have to be extensive.
That's number 10, right?
Yes, number 10. Sorry. I guess the bedroom and the landscaping don't exactly fit together. No. They kind of do, though. No, they don't at all. Thanks.
You're welcome.
A pot of flowers.
Yeah.
Just something with a little bit of color, especially this time of year. I went out and got my pansies. They tend to last. I love pansies because they kind of go from early spring until fall.
End of summer, yeah.
End of summer, as long as you give them enough water, which is a problem in my world. So if you're going to have hanging pots or pots in planters, you can get planters now that will self-water. You just fill up a big reservoir and then it'll keep them going for a while. So that's a good insight as well. And just clean the landscaping, just fresh.
Yeah.
And it's not extensive. So it's a little different than your curb appeal. We talked about curb appeal in another insight. This is more about those soft lines and that inviting warmth.
Yeah, for sure. And not full of maintenance as well with your landscaping.
Right. Make it look and be like, so if there's a deck that's, well, this is a little more than landscaping, maybe this is back to curb appeal, and if you have a deck that's got 3 rotten boards, get rid of the 3 rotten boards.
Yes, for sure.
Clean that up. You don't have to replace your whole deck.
No.
Just get rid of what's done, and it's better that it looks maintained, even if it's a different color, than it look unmaintained.
Right.
Absolutely. And number 11, making it irresistible means not letting it sit on the market too long.
Yeah. Because the longer it sits on the market, buyers start to wonder, why hasn't it sold? If it was great, it would be sold by now.
What's
wrong with it? Yeah, exactly. Boy, we sound related or something.
Or at least that we work together and live together. Well, not anymore. Did for 20 years. Yeah. Kicked her out when she was 20. It was the best thing we ever did. No, actually, it was a sad day. She's sweet. So irresistible is lost when it sits too long.
Yes.
And there's really, even when you start pricing it and reducing it, the challenge is you're chasing a ball running down a hill. It's like that. And so get it right in the first place.
That's right.
And then it is irresistible and it's gone.
Yes.
Somebody's already bought it, which is way better. Number 12.
Perception.
Yeah.
When people perceive things to be true, they technically are true, right? So
right.
Old oil tanks or oil heating with oil, it's a hard thing right now for insurance companies, and there's a perception about it being negative, and so it becomes negative. So let's say, for example, that your oil furnace is older and there's gas on the street and you're thinking of selling, just put the gas furnace in, because they will ding you. The buyers will see a huge negative value with that oil furnace. They may not even come see the property to begin with.
That happens a lot right now.
Absolutely.
So perception is reality, even though it's a $4,000 fix, and who cares? Like, factor that in when you're purchasing your home. It isn't always like that. In fact, it's usually not like that. And with so much online searching, that's one of the criterion that realtors can enter on behalf of their client. And the number of times I sit down with somebody that's looking to buy, and you do too, and they say, I don't want oil. And I go, seriously? Can we please include them and let's just budget? And yet I know not everybody is having that conversation.
Right.
So make it irresistible by if it's brand new, well, it is what it is. It's just if it needs replacing anyway, and it's going to become an issue at building inspection time, or an issue that people aren't even going to see it, let's address it up front.
Absolutely.
Right, because perception is reality, even though we don't like that.
Right.
Number 13.
This is one of the things I like. It does involve spending a little bit of money, and it's freshening up bathrooms and freshening up places in your house. So it may mean spending a little bit of money on the expensive, nice smelling soap or a fresh candle or just a hand towel that's new and fresh and not worn out.
Just a little bit of fresh look. Fresh flowers is also another way of freshening up the house. Anything you can do to just give it a little pop of color. One of the freshening up ideas that I love to do is just choose one color that you're going to accent with in the main parts of your house. And buy those few little things that you can place all around. A red kettle.
Right.
Maybe on the kitchen stove, especially if there's a chip in the stove. Then put a red kettle there because it's a little fresher.
Yeah.
Maybe, a red bouquet of flowers, maybe a red vase if you're going to use red, maybe a picture that's got a little bit of red in the bicycle, maybe a couple of pillows that have got a little bit of red, or a book even that's laying there that's got a red cover that's sitting on the coffee table. So some things don't take money.
No.
They just give a little fresh look to your home. If you're looking for some great fresh properties, we have a wonderful, wonderful spot on a couple of acres just outside North Gore at only $375,000.
Yeah.
It's a split level home.
It's a lovely family home as well. So there's a lot of space and a lot of different areas if you need some space around a growing family.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's an awesome one that you'll want to connect with us about. Just come on the market. Beautiful, inviting, and you can still do some finishing touches. There's always more you can do, and yet it is a lovely split level home. And I find split levels really do give you those diverse spaces.
Yeah.
And you can use the spaces in so many different ways.
Absolutely. And there's still spaces that are all-encompassing for your family as well.
Exactly. Another irresistible property that you will love is something that actually has a home and the ability to run your business out of. It is $479,900. It's just outside Carlsbad Springs, and it's on over 5 acres.
That's great.
Or actually 5 acres.
Yeah, and is there a shop?
There is. There's a 20 by 30 foot garage/shop that you could certainly utilize for your business. Yeah. And there's also a 12 by 16 building that could be turned into an additional shop. And then there is a second laneway. A gravel lane going in that sort of loops into the existing laneway of the house that would take you back to the bulk of the 5 acres where you could put all kinds of outbuildings.
That's great.
Which is incredible. It's right by the 417. So such an easy commute in, and the house is been cared for. The kitchen's been updated. It's actually really inviting and lovely, and it's a bungalow.
Very nice.
Full lower level that could be used as an in-law suite. So join us if you want to, you call us to join us and then buy one of these great properties. Thanks for joining me, Candace.
You're very welcome. Thank you.